Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I am beyond excited because today, finally, my Galapagos Island adventure is going to start. The reason why I actually decided to come to Ecuador. And of course I'm going to take you with me. I'm going to show you my experiences on the islands. But let me explain you a little bit about Galapagos Islands before we start. There are in total 13 big islands and more than 100 small islands. The Galapagos Islands are located 1,000 kilometers away from the coast of Ecuador. This paradise is known to be the second largest marine reserve on Earth and the second biggest archipelago with most volcanic activities after Hawaii. Today's video is especially interesting for people who are planning to go to Galapagos Islands because, to be honest, I had a little disaster yesterday evening when I realized there are actually quite a few requirements that you need to fulfill before being allowed to enter Galapagos Islands. So don't be me, be prepared. Our journey is actually going to start here at the airport of Quito, and I'm going to take you through all of the filters that I need to go through in order to be allowed to enter Galapagos Islands. You can either reach the Galapagos Islands through the airport of Quito, the capital of Ecuador, or through the airport of Guayaquil. In any case, you have to go through various filters. You need to pre-register online before coming to the airport. You can also do this here at the airport apparently, but in order to save time, it does make sense to do this online. I'm going to leave you the link where you can actually register in the description below. And then after that, you will have to go in Quito to this place here behind me. There you will hand over your passport, they will check if you registered, and then you pay the $20 and they will give you a transit card with which you can then go to the next filter, which would be here in Quito, there behind me, and there they will check your luggage. It is actually not allowed to bring a lot of things to Galapagos Islands. For example, you will not be allowed to bring fruits or vegetables or seeds in order to not contaminate the islands. So they are highly protected. It is a national park, so they are very strict with those kind of things. And after that, you would be checking in your luggage if you have luggage to check in. For example, I am here with just my hand luggage as always, so I don't need to check it in. I can just continue to the security check. All right, I am already in front of the gate, and you guys, I am beyond excited. This is kind of a dream since a very long time. And well, it is a very expensive dream, that's for sure. I think it will be probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience. About this transit card, one thing, you cannot lose it because you have to hand it over once you get there at Galapagos. So make sure to place that in a very safe spot where you won't be able to lose it, and also I have to sign it later on. I'm waiting for the flight to start. We have quite a lot of plans already today because once we get there, I'm going to show you a little bit the town that I'm staying in, and we are going to explore the area. So I really can't wait to get there. And here I am, just arrived at Galapagos Islands. We are at Baltra's Island. Once we arrived, we had to do another security check of our luggage and everything. Then we had to pay the entrance fee, which is for foreigners like me, $100. For some people of a few countries here in Latin America, it's $50. And then for Ecuadorians, it's actually only $6. It's like a huge difference, but it's fine, I guess. We also handed over the documents that we had to fill out earlier. Also, I had to fill out another one that they gave me in the airplane. It's like a declaration that you do not bring any illegal things to the islands, do not contaminate them. I am outside in front of the airport, and it is now time to actually take a bus to Puerto Ayora. We gotta take a bus now. That bus will take us to a little port. From there we will take a ferry that'll take only 10 minutes more or less. And then again another bus that will actually take us to Puerto Ayora. It'll take more or less 2 hours to get to the village. But that is the most economical version. You can also take a taxi, but obviously this will be way more expensive. And since this is already a very expensive trip, I'm going with the economical version and take the bus. I just bought my bus ticket. It cost me $5. Actually, I think in total this tour is going to cost me $11 because it'll be one bus for $5, the ferry for $1, and then another bus for $5. So 11 in total. The taxi, if you would do it with a taxi, I think it'll cost you more or less $50. I made it to Puerto Ayora, and well, I'm very excited. Let me just quickly show you the view. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but there is beautiful, crystal clear water in front of me, which looks amazing. I quickly dropped off my stuff in the hotel and, well, I already mentioned we have some things to do today. When we got here with the bus will actually not drop you off here in the town. It's like 2 kilometers away from the town, more or less. So you can either decide to walk or you will pay $1.50 for a little taxi that will bring you directly to your hotel. Actually, it's $1.50 per person. We were like 4 people sharing a taxi, so make sure to connect with some people and share a taxi. I already booked my tours, actually. I have a very limited amount of time. I have only 4 days here. You can book the tours online, you can also book packages and so on a long time ahead already, but they actually say that it is way cheaper if you book it here. And I must say, I'm super surprised with what I just paid. It's a lot of money, but way less than I expected. So here in the town you will find a lot of restaurants, a lot of stores. There's a harbor here and, well, you can do all kinds of things here, I guess. And actually I just bought a shirt that is going to protect me a bit from the sun because the sun here is so incredibly strong. By the way, the Galapagos Islands are one of the most expensive destinations on Earth. And I noticed that. I actually spent $400 today. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I did spend $400 in only one day. More than $400. With the shirt it's like $430, I think. And the day is not even over yet. I still have to eat lunch and dinner. And, well, I'm going to a scientific center. I am expecting this to cost some entry fee. So this is not going to be a cheap vacation. But anyway, I've planned this. I have a budget for that. But just so you know, Galapagos, well, you gotta save some money to come here. This man here behind me is someone that we've hopefully all heard about already. That's Charles Darwin, and he's not here without any reason. I am walking towards the scientific center of Charles Darwin. He came to Galapagos Islands in 1835. And at this place here, he actually developed the evolutionary theory. In this theory, he basically stated that the animals who are extremely specialized and stronger than others, who have adapted perfectly to the environment, are the animals that survive. So that's his theory of the survival of the fittest. Here in Galapagos, they try to protect the oceans and they collect garbage from the oceans whenever they can. For example, in 2018, they collected around 24,000 tons of plastic from the ocean, which is absolutely insane. And the problem is that, of course, lots of animals are eating that kind of plastic they find in the ocean. And also, what we usually do not think about is, like, since the animals eat it and we eat the animals, we also eat microplastic. In general, this plastic in the oceans obviously endangers the animals here in the area, and that is why it is so important to protect them. Also, this kind of plastic that you can see here behind me, for example, that comes from all over the world. There are several currents here in the Galapagos Islands that wash in plastic from all over the world. So it's nothing unusual that you can see a cane here, for example, from China. There are various different currents transporting water from Panama, Colombia, and like various parts of our planet to the Galapagos Islands. This building here behind me is the Charles Darwin Foundation, and you can in general learn a little bit about the history of the foundation and also about the work of Charles Darwin here on Galapagos Islands. He, for example, worked for more or less 20 years on his evolutionary theory. He spent a lot of time here watching the animals of the islands, and then on that research he did here, he actually based his evolutionary theory. There's actually also a beach here on that road that takes you to the scientific center. There is a beach, I didn't know that. And look at that, it's super nice. Actually, the sand is white. Then we have some rocks over there that are black, that are volcanic rocks. The islands here, Galapagos Islands, there are lots of active volcanoes in the area, so you will see a lot of volcanic rocks here. And then this super beautiful turquoise water. In the area of the scientific center, you can also do the path of tortoises here. And, well, you will see some tortoise here, and you will learn about the history and the protection of the animals here in this area. And you will have to pay a guide for that. That'll cost you $10 per person. We are now in the reproduction part of the turtles. So you can see some of them here behind me, down there. And well, they basically protect the turtles of the islands here. Whenever it's necessarily, they take their eggs and they bring them here to this island to protect them. The turtles grow up to 5 years old and then they will return them to their island of origin. And down there we can actually now see a giant turtle that is an adult already. Those earlier were just the little ones that had 3 to 5 years, and that one here is already an adult. I don't know if you ever heard of Solitario George, but he is a tortoise here on Galapagos Island, or he was. And he became famous because he was actually the last one of his species. They tried to find a match for him to reproduce his species, but it simply was impossible. And he was one of the giant turtles, and I think he came up to probably more than my hip. So it was a really, really big one. And well, he died at the age of 75 years, more or less. And he has been living here until 2012. And people here took care of him. And well, nowadays we can still see his body basically. Here's a place where you can actually see George and see how huge he actually was. I found this tour very, very interesting because they told us a little bit about the history of the Galapagos Islands, and I've learned that the Galapagos Islands came out of the sea. So basically through volcanic eruptions that created the islands little by little, and the islands are moving each year. They are moving 7 centimeters closer to the land of Ecuador. Once they were created, there was nothing on the island, no tree, no plant, no animal. And little by little, the wind, for example, brought seeds here to the island, or for example, some animals swam here, birds flew here. And the turtles, for example, they actually floated here. And the interesting thing is that a lot of species here on Galapagos Islands, they come from one single animal. So basically, one turtle arrived here at Galapagos Islands, and well, it slowly adapted to its environment. So for example, each island of the Galapagos Island has a different climate. Sometimes even on one island you find different climate zones. The turtles that arrived here on Santa Cruz, for example, are different than turtles that move towards other islands, because on other islands the climate is more dry, there's maybe a desert even, and turtles had to adapt to the environment and change a little bit. For example, there are turtles that we've seen here that are like giant turtles that have a very long neck, and that is simply because they need to get their food from higher places. Here on Santa Cruz, for example, the turtles that live here naturally, they have a short neck because it's simply not necessary. There are plants like everywhere. So the animals, they adapted to their environment. And well, that is also basically the theory of Charles Darwin, right? So that is basically the research he did here, and the research that he was evaluating for like 20 years back in London after he came back, evaluating all his data that he found here on the Galapagos Islands. Something very interesting, I think, and something also very hard to imagine. Like, all of this has been nothing millions of years ago. There was nothing, and now it is so rich on diversity, this island, that is absolutely insane to imagine. And it simply shows the beauty of our nature if we let it live. Here behind me you can now see the port of Puerto Ayora. And well, this is where all the tours are going to start. Also my tour tomorrow is going to start here at the port. I am very excited for that one. This was our little tour through the village of Puerto Ayora, and I hope you now have a clear overview of how to get to Galapagos Island and also all of the requirements. The next videos are going to be about the tours that I am going to do here. I will take you to different islands. I will show you the beautiful nature, the wildlife, and we will go snorkeling together. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss out on those videos, and I will hopefully see you in a few days.